Welcome back to the Modern Old School Training Podcast. I'm Aaron King with Coach Bob King, and today's topic is CrossFit and
circuit training.
Circuit training versus CrossFit.
How do they compare?
Or how do they compare? Okay.
Yeah.
So we get this question a lot because CrossFit's very popular, and this is not a bash CrossFit episode, so I don't want people to think we're going to start making fun of CrossFit.
We're not doing that.
What we're doing is we're talking about where things like this fit in sports training, and just the value of it, but then also the risk of it.
You have to always account for that in your training. Is this going to improve me or set me back? Because we see it all the time with athletes getting hurt, trying to push it to the next level. Don't do that.
Yeah, I think that's really kind of the moral of the story is pushing it.
Yeah.
And that's where we see probably the biggest problem. Is
always,
just the methodology behind it.
Yeah. And what we'll talk about as we go on is that how much do accomplished athletes need to actually do? We see it all the time. We get our college kids in and we work them through the summer, and this happens a little slower at the high school level, but what happens is they will come in, they'll work out with us, get our system down, be very successful in the training, go off for 9 months to the school they're going to, play their sport, they come back, we start the workouts over again. And this happened just recently in the past summer. We had some of our guys come back, and in the first week I just tore up the workout. I said, I got to redo this. They knew it so well. They were doing so well, so fast that we had to rein them in because we had 9 more weeks.
Yeah.
And so adaptation is the point of training, but then how do you keep them from getting physically and mentally bored? So when we're talking about these kind of things, CrossFit, circuit training, we're going to show you where they fit, because they're not an island unto themselves, but they are interlocked with a lot of other training styles.
So where do you even start? Is it a question of where does it fit, or I'm going to do CrossFit? Where does it fit?
It's where does it fit? Okay, so guys always talked about if all you have in your toolbox is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
So let me get to this study, because this is where I think you and I really do well, is we go out and get what's called unbiased, legitimate work that studies the exercises, study the workouts, and how does it fit and where does it fit. CrossFit versus circuit trained individuals, and what these guys did, they looked for the effects of a 10-week training program on muscular strength and endurance. Now I want to go by piece because it's not a lengthy study. But when you talk about a 10-week training program, that should get you everything you need as far as adaptation, gains, and then leveling off. Now, on the other side of it, it talks about muscular strength and endurance. And those are key athletic components, because endurance, if you get tired, your strength goes away. Right. And so you have to have both. And I'm going to go back and forth and read excerpts for accuracy of this. But the one thing I noticed is this is what you have to understand. They start talking about CrossFit being a type of high-intensity exercises that uses different loads and duration of Olympics, power lifts, kettlebells, and other types of training, body weight, and that kind of thing. So it doesn't just utilize equipment of one kind, obviously, and people know this by now. But let me just give you some highlights here. They made a comment that to date, and again, I'm going to read for accuracy. To date, no information is available comparing the effects of a longitudinal CrossFit or circuit training program on performance and measure. The key word on almost anything you do is longevity. Longitudinal this time means, say, they have 15 years of data, even a year of data. It's not out there because it's just all that's relatively new in comparison. CrossFit, I don't know, about 8 or 10 or 14 years, I don't know for sure. Circuit training since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And so longitudinally, we don't know how it happens over time. We know some of the downside to the CrossFit, but we also know people get stronger and so forth. They want to find out if strength and endurance indicators differ. And when you do that in experimenting, you have to say in the beginning, we're going to see if your bench press is stronger, or your mile run is faster, or you can do 100 push-ups in a minute, or what it is. So you have to establish the parameters in the beginning. And so they did CrossFit or circuit training, and everybody knows what I said about CrossFit. Circuit training is most commonly anywhere from 8 to 12 exercises, one after another, and then repeating. So that's the circuit aspect of it. And so they decided that 3 days a week they're going to test the 1-rep bench press, 1-rep back squat, and in muscular endurance was going to be a traditional push-up test. The benefit of a traditional push-up test is it's universal. So if you say you do 400 push-ups, you go, everybody knows that's a lot. Yeah. You did 3 push-ups, everybody knows you're terrible.
I don't know if you heard me counting.
2, 4, 6. So anyway, they went through the 10-week program, and if you're reading research, the way I do that is I will take a research article, is how I found this one. Read the abstract. That's the summary. Here's what we did and what we were looking for. If it's any good, I go ahead and go to the end and read the conclusions and what they call sometimes the suggestions or usefulness. The methodologies I usually decipher. So we'll get to the conclusion. What they found was that, and this is a key point to all training methods, the cross-training group improved significantly more than the CrossFit group in the upper body 1RM. Well, that's not a knock on anything other than specificity of training, and I get that a lot. Well, should I do this, or I'm doing a very functional, or I'm doing a very something specific training. Specificity of training means you get good at doing what you do because you do it often enough with increased loads or something of that matter. And so the CrossFit doesn't have bench press.
Right.
Circuit training does. Therefore, what?
Yeah.
And so it does. It's not a knock on anything. And so that's what you have to be careful of. Well, this proves, no, it doesn't prove anything other than that in the world of training, if you bench press, you'll get stronger.
Yeah.
If you don't, you won't. So that was one of the conclusions of it. And I like this part about it. It says both the CrossFit and circuit training groups improve similarly in lower body and upper body endurance. And bench press is not a regular movement of CrossFit, it says, and that's what we already knew. And so there's no question that circuit training where we lift and move, lift and move, lift and move, and then CrossFit where it's high intensity move to another exercise, share the lift and move principle, you're going to get more endurance. You're going to get fitter. Mm-hmm. Whatever you're doing, I would suppose they didn't test it, but I would suppose that circuit training didn't get very strong in the power clean because CrossFit will do power cleans or hang cleans of something of that Olympic style movement. So the bottom line is you can take any training method and compare it to another, and if you do it and I don't, you're going to get better, and vice versa. If we all do the same thing, it's going to probably be a matter of individuals, how much they can handle loads and intensity. So when we hear this, and I mean you and me and guys in our profession, people who are just tribal or community or whatever, go, oh, this is the best way to train. Well, it's specificity of training. It's the best way to train to get good at that. Where does it fit in sports? Does it make you stronger? Does it make you more fitter? But does it make you faster, more agile? Those are things that always have to be considered in program choices. What will it do to help my sport? Another aspect, what will it do to hurt my sport? And that means, is this type of training injury prone? Well, Olympic movements are highly complex and they can be susceptible to injury. Powerlifting definitely, because there's such great loads. So all of these things are good if they are coached well and modified and regulated and everything according to what the sport needs. We've done other podcasts and things about squatting and speed. If you squat a ton, you're faster to a point.
Yeah, like it was the first 5 yards and that's it.
Yeah. So first 5, you're just fine. You're going to outdo anybody squatting less, but then after that, it became just really more technique and speed training specifically. Mm-hmm. So picking a program, and we started this CrossFit or that type of thing, even the circuit training is a tool in the toolbox. Mm-hmm. And in King's program, what we do is we have what we call specials. And so we will be training for a period of weeks, and it's like, I see it coming, so I build it in. And so a lot of times we'll use Friday as our special day, and it could be who knows what. I mean, it could be some sort of what we call a 10-30 tips program where we do a high volume reps, or we do a upper lower split in the same day. We do complexes, which involve everything from lift, run, and jump in combination. And so we insert these things. Circuit training we use as a kind of an active recovery midweek thing. And so it's not our program, it's in our program. Mm-hmm. We do a thing called Strend. Strend is something we developed in the early 90s that became kind of a cousin to CrossFit, but It's got a different design to it. It's got a very specific
you do it like
twice a year, but it is just intense as all get. Yeah. Well, you've done it, and we've both done it. And so These are tools. So is it good? Yes. I personally don't want to circuit train every day, power lift every day, CrossFit every day, but I want some variety because the word I talked about in the beginning, longevity, longitudinal. How am I going to be as an athlete who's training hard for a career that ends abruptly at the end of high school or halfway through college or at the end of college? Now you're looking at the rest of your life. You need to maintain some level of strength and fitness. In my opinion, strength is functional. So there you have it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, and I'm also thinking about the individual. There's plenty of athletes that they're getting all those extra reps on the Olympics or squats or whatever, but then some other guys won't even put a bar on their back. Comes down to position, comes down to the individual. Some guys are built and girls are built special.
Oh, and that's, back in the old days, and I don't know if they still do it, they taught us about, everything coming out of Russia and Eastern Europe was sacred. I mean, those guys, they knew everything. And that's where we first learned about the grid, where they would put your body up and they'd put your arms out and look at you on a wall with a grid and look at your body segments. And they start identifying who's got the best segmental design or build for Olympic lifting. And so their whole approach to how they identified and had everybody in a club lifting, and then the better ones moved into the more elite level, and then it gradually got to where their Olympic athletes were picked out of just those who performed the best, of course. But they started by just looking at their segments because it's we have one of our athletes just had long arms. It's like, dude, we're going to have you do hang cleans because you're never going to get it off the ground if you do power cleans. So your levers are terrible. So we'll hang clean you.
Yeah, that's where the individual training is important for the program. Well, what's I guess the big knock would be kind of what you touched on a second ago of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the technical element.
Oh,
So it's the novice that's going in there and they're just throwing them into cleans.
Yeah, this is a real sensitive subject over on my side of the table because we don't do snatches. We did them. I did them coming through, but we were well coached and we learned it. And the snatch is highly technical, and it's real mistake prone, and that leads to injuries. And so we just said we got other options. We can do a push press. We do is neat or cool looking or as effective as a snatch is for a group. No, you'll never get anything done because you'll spend all your time coaching individuals, and you can go through, and I don't like saying this totally, but you can be semi-sloppy on a hang clean and survive it. But on certain overhead lifts, snatch again, and people want to do the snatch squat, that right there is a load. I mean, it's called axial loading right down the spine, and so just got to be careful with that. So if I'm in a group setting or same thing, but a setting where you have a experienced group and here come a couple of novices, it's like, man, the party stops because you have to put all your focus on the new people if it's complex or multi-joint lifts that require real good technical skills.
Yeah, that goes back to your training. The specificity of training is the movement itself, and that's why I guess one of the jokes is, I don't know, not joke, but one of the comments is you're just being really good at working out.
Yeah,
like you're training to work out.
Yeah, right.
Which is fine, and I think the crossover is, how applicable is that for a sports specific program?
Yeah, and I think where we're going to have...
And there's different sports.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's like CrossFit became a sport competition.
Yeah.
All right, you're not going to see circuit training competition. Right. Yeah. But, CrossFit became a sport, so if that's your sport, then you train to do those events.
There's one thing I will say about CrossFit that they knocked out of the park. It is the community, the tribal thing we touched on. That is...
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean it's so well done because they've done it across kind of a broad spectrum where each gym kind of has like the answer to the the almighty, whatever the workout of the day is. So they've done that very well and gotten a lot of people active, probably way beyond what they would be.
Who would have seen that coming?
I love pickup basketball.
Yeah.
But I'm not in a tribe for pickup basketball.
No. Well,
I'm not losing weight, but if you're in CrossFit, you're accountable to your group.
Well, to their credit, I mean, the intensity of it gives the participants a great satisfaction to say, look what I did today. I just lived longevity. When I was in the pros, I knew then that if I could get this guy fit, strong, in shape, and healthy in the off season and add years to his career, in the NBA, that's millions of dollars. And so that was a goal there. So not to see not just how good of a strength coach I am, but just how much I could put on this guy and build this, statue of a man, when in fact I just need a good basketball player. And so you look at the end, or what people like to say, what's the outcome here? Well, I need a very, very good basketball, very good football player, whoever it is I'm training on the court, field, or wherever. That's what I need. If this or that style of lifting suits them and they maybe grew up with it, I mean, you can adapt, but to get into an only kind of mentality, I think, is a mistake.
Well, I mean, how much Olympic lifting do you even want to do in basketball to begin with? I mean, that's where I was saying the sports specific. Football, sure.
The thing about Olympic training is that if you're a good coach, knows where the pieces fit. So, for example, we would do with the basketball players, we hang jumps where we take the bar and jump from the knee, and hang cleans was, depending on their arm length, I'd do a hang clean occasionally with a push press. I just didn't have any 7-footers. I just wanted that bar going 18 feet overhead with those long arms. So, the Olympics are good explosive movements, but there are other options. We're not stuck. We're not like all or none, and that's where I think, you fall in love with a style of training, and then you feel like that's all we can do for this particular trait. So more speed, more explosion. Well, we can only get it from this. No, we've developed a lot of ways of, it's like going to the gym. Everybody comes from everywhere in different routes, but they all end up at the same place. So we can do the same thing in training here, different methods to get to the same end result.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the Olympic and CrossFit stuff here, but circuit training was kind of the baseline.
Yeah,
I think the not misnomer, the misconception on circuit training is that you're just doing high reps, but where where the program, it's the short segment, the long segment, where you start throwing in the bench, the squat, and your core lifts. Those rep schemes vary.
Right.
So it's a circuit, but the rep schemes is where the
where we evolved in I think, if I haven't remembered, the first thing that we ever did is a modification of the circuit training was in 1983. 1983. And so we broke it into segments because circuit training is not always doable. It's too long and inefficient in a lot of ways. But what we did was we broke it into segments, and we just, push-pull. Nothing tricky about it. So as we'd go bench, back, legs, leg, so squat, leg curl, RDL, something like that. And so one body part was resting while the other one was working, and we could lift and move and get more done. And our strength was never compromised. It was never a matter of our bench press is 50-pound weakers, but we got done quicker. No, our bench press never suffered. We got all the 300 plus we needed. We got all the big squats we needed. We did very well. The thing I always said is, as a high school coach, my athletes were really lab rats. And so what we discovered is when we competed in powerlifting meets, we did very well. We went to track and field. We did very well in the throwing events, which are powerful, and the sprints and all. We did well. I mean, you can do what you need to do if you'll learn it. So to say circuit training, I'm not doing 3 sets of 12 for 10 exercises and not getting any strength. No, we do, like a 5-3-1-1 in a segment. So
I mean, I went through the program, and I think I left high school 12 reps, 225, something like that. Yeah. 4 years in a Division I college program. I left there doing it 17 times. Yeah. So in 4 years.
Right.
I added 5 reps. Well, I went to the combine after a couple months of training, and I did 25 reps. Yeah. So it's like
it works.
Doing there. Maybe it was because I just that was just the right time.
There are a lot of reasons, but the thing that I like to also say in connection with that is it didn't set you back. It didn't hold you back. It didn't interfere with your goals.
And the results were great.
Yeah, and we get that. We still get that. 1983, whatever it is now, 100 years later, we're still seeing the same. Benefit. We just had a player gone in second round of the NBA draft here in 2018, and that's what he did. And he'll do well in the pros. I mean, he left Dallas with, good body shape, good body type, good speed. So we wish him well.
Yeah, 7 feet.
Yeah.
Well, did we miss anything?
No, there's no end.
There's...
So we covered what we started to get into. So I guess if we had questions or people want to respond, they can certainly find us.
If you have any questions or comments, feedback, we'd love it. We try to touch on these topics as much as we can to provide the science behind it. So,
yes.
'cause we all have our opinions going in, but once you start throwing data and science, you start realizing, something different. And so if you have something you'd like to share, let us know. If you're on YouTube, you can just comment below. You can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at DeepSnap. Coach Bob King's at Coach Bob King on both of those. Go to kingsportstrain.com. We got the web app. You get in there, get some workouts. And then we got webinars coming up. So that'll be a whole nother level of diving into these topics.
Yes,
so
sir.
Let us know. And you got anything else?
That's good.
All right.
Enjoyed it.
We'll talk to you next time.
See ya.